Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Cam, and happy Easter to all of you. He is risen, praise be to God. And if you are not religious, well, I hope that you have a pleasant Sunday. This is a very special video today, and, well, I have a very special guest with me to talk about why The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is better than you remember. Without any further ado, let's bring her in. She is the writer and creator of Rachel's Reviews, a blog and YouTube channel. She's been on the channel before. Always happy to have her back. It's Rachel from Rachel's Reviews. What's up, Rachel? How are
Yay.
you?
Thank you so much for having me. Happy Easter.
Yeah, happy Easter to you too. And want to give a shout out to Durbin, because last year Durbin, yourself, and I did one of my personal favorite videos. We did a deep dive into the Prince of Egypt. I had a lot of fun making that. It was especially fun because I made him pop with a well-timed Tombstone reference.
Yes, love Durbin so much. He is, and we're not doing a devotional this Easter because it's just too busy right now with him. He just moved to Texas from California, so everything's a little bit crazy. But he's one of my best friends on YouTube.
Yeah, shout out to him. He's here in spirit. Hopefully he sees this.
Yeah.
Or at least I would like him to see this. But anyway, let's dive into The Chronicles of Narnia, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. This was released in 2005, and it starred William Moseley, Anne Popplewell, Skander Keynes, Georgie Henley, Liam Neeson, Tilda Swinton, and James McAvoy, among others. And this was based on the legendary novel written by the legendary author C.S. Lewis. If you've clicked on this video, you probably know exactly what this book, movie, whatever you've seen it as, you probably know exactly what it's all about. So saying the plot would be rather superfluous. But Rachel, I want to ask you, do you have any memories of how you first came across the Chronicles of Narnia, seeing the movie first, the book first, any of the like?
Yeah, definitely the book first. We were big readers in my family. My mom is a big reader. Neither of my parents are that big of movie people, or certainly television, that's for sure. But my mom in particular loved to read, and she really loves fantasy, and she loves the Lord of the Rings, or one of her favorites, and then also all the C.S. Lewis books. And so definitely it was something that we would have had read to us aloud. My parents were extremely diligent about reading to us every night. And so, yeah, this was something that we would have definitely had read to us and then read myself. I was never like super into fantasy, so this wasn't like my favorite, but I definitely was exposed to it. I still liked it, but I just love. I was more into books like Little Women, the Little House on the Prairie, things like that.
Yeah, I remember my first memories of this was, seeing the movie in theaters first and foremost and loving it. And then when I went to a Catholic school from 4th through 6th grade, it was pretty much required reading to read The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe at the very least, and then do a film study and a book study along with that. And it's some of my fondest memories of my time there. So I have a great deal of fond memories regarding this movie, separate from its quality, because I think this is definitely. It's weird to call this movie underrated. I guess I could say that because I don't feel like people talk about it nowadays, but I think it's one of the best like fantasy movies that's geared primarily maybe towards a younger audience, maybe towards like kids. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, you got Harry Potter, that'd be another
Oh,
one. And there's other ones out there, but this is one that has an allegory, a real allegory that I think not all of them have. Uh, I don't know. It just depends on I guess your definition of fantasy, because there's certainly things like The Giver, or or The Wrinkle in Time. That would be another one that we read a lot. That had a lot of allegory in it. But yeah, this was definitely a book that both taught something to kids, helped explain the Christ metaphor, but it didn't like lean on that. You still had good characters, good writing, and you could, I think, appreciate the story even if you aren't Christian.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I don't know a better place to ask this, but this was written by C.S. Lewis, an incredibly celebrated author. Maybe outside of Narnia, do you have any knowledge of any of his other books? Because I recommend that everyone read Mere Christianity. It is a fantastic book, even if you're not particularly religious. I do highly recommend it.
Yeah, that one's a really good one. And I love the Screw Tape Letters. That's one of my favorites. It might be my favorite. It's so good.
I have
Have you
not
ever?
I have not read it in a while, but I do remember really enjoying it.
It's so good. It's these two. There's an apprenticed devil and uh, an experienced devil named Screwtape. They're writing to each other, and Screwtape is giving advice on how to tempt humans, and it's so good. It's so really it's fun to read, but it's also very insightful.
Yeah, I agree. Well, let's get into the movie itself. I did a bit of research and I found this movie was actually supposed to be released a lot earlier than we ended up getting, in 1996 to be specific. I believe Walden Media, who ended up releasing it, got the rights in 2001. However, there was a cut that was originally supposed to be released in 96. However, it just straight up just never saw the light of day.
Now there was that TV movie version um, that came out that's actually pretty good. That was, I guess it was in 1988, so it's later, but it's actually pretty good.
Oh,
Um,
I'd actually never heard of that one.
yeah, yeah. There's a TV movie version that I think was on PBS. Yeah, 1988. If you, I mean, obviously it has the production level of 1988 TV movie, but it's actually pretty good. So
Yeah,
that was the one that I saw because I'm old, a lot older than you. So that was the one that I saw like growing up, and kind of my, aside from the book, that was my initial exposure.
I'll definitely have to search that one out. It sounds interesting.
Yeah, but yeah, that's interesting that they were trying to make a feature film. I mean, it makes sense. It's such a classic story.
Yeah, especially in a pre-Lord of the Rings world, because I think this might be a bit of a bold statement, but I think Lord of the Rings proved that movies like this, if they're well made, they can do like really well. I think that'd be fair to say.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it definitely was a game changer, not only to have such financial success, but also such critical success too, with the Lord of the Rings. That I mean, they win Best Picture even.
Yeah, and also in my research, the 90s version would have been produced by Frank Marshall and Kathleen Kennedy. So you got two heavyweights in the production game. I mean, Frank Marshall
Yeah,
and Kathleen Kennedy produced Back to the Future, Indiana Jones. I mean, their resume speaks for themselves pretty much. It would have been interesting to see what would have come of that, but I'm very satisfied with the version that we ended up getting. Also, I had to look up on IMDb just to make certain, but the four child actors, excuse me, who play the Pevenses, they didn't really do much after, say this, and they were also in Prince Caspian, and a couple were in Voyage of the Dawn Treader, but they didn't really go on to much in the acting world, and I think it's a bit sad because I actually like all of their performances. I think they would have stuck around, they would have gotten work, but maybe it was a conscious decision on their part. I mean, it,
it, it it is kind of unusual that all of them kind of distance themselves from, do you think that, because I like with the Harry Potter, they kind of like Rupert Grint, hasn't done much. So you'd expect that to have like individuals. Emma Watson's taking a break. for a little while. You'd expect that, but to have all of them, which is interesting because I think that I agree with you. I think that they're strong, and I think that if I was putting casts against each other, I think it's I think they're stronger than the Harry Potter kids.
Ooh, that's a hot take. That's a very hot take.
Yes, especially in those early movies. The kids are not great in those Harry Potter movies. They grow. They grow a lot, but I think it probably helped. You've got, I mean, not that the Harry Potter movies have great talent too, but here this movie has so many great actors as well, with Tilda Swinton and Jim Broadbent and James McAvoy, and I mean, just really great people.
Yeah, speaking of Jim Broadbent, he plays the professor who takes the kids in, and we don't see much of him, but I want to know more about him because I believe he gets his own book dedicated to him. I
Oh,
believe it's.
really?
I'm sorry.
No, I just said, oh, really?
Yeah, I believe it's the Silver Chair, but I'd have to look that up. But I mean, it's Jim Broadbent, so of course he's going to be great in pretty much anything that he's in. You can really count the number of scenes he's in on maybe like one hand, but when he's there, it's always good.
Yeah, he's always good. I mean, he's great in Harry Potter too.
Yeah, not to mention he's far preferable than Mrs. McCready. I mean, good lord, what has gotten into that woman? Like I get it. It's wartime, you know, you got to be strict with the kids. I get it. There were some parts where I'm just like, wow, like they're just kids. Like have a little sympathy towards their situation. They've
Yeah.
basically been uprooted because their last home was bombed every other day. Like have some patience, will you?
Mm, true.
I
Have
guess
you read all the books, the whole series?
I've only read Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian.
Yeah, those are the only ones I've read as an adult. I'm pretty sure my mom read me the whole series as a kid, but I don't really remember them. But we did Prince Caspian when the movie came out. We my friends and I did that for book club. So I read that. I mean, this was years and years ago, and I've read the original. The other books, and it's probably why the movies didn't really take off after this. Is they're not as allegorical.
Yeah, and it also Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe is so well known that every other one was like, wait, there's more to these? It's like people didn't get the memo, I suppose.
Right.
Well, soon enough, the kids discover the world of Narnia through the wardrobe, and it's actually Lucy who discovers the world first. And through the wardrobe, we meet Mr. Tumnus, played by James McAvoy. And I had no idea that I would be seeing him in like movies up to this day where he'd be Professor X and he'd be in these other movies like Wanted and etc. What did you think of this performance?
Oh yeah. I mean, he's a really great actor. I can't hardly think of a bad performance from James McAvoy. There's been maybe not strong movies, but can't really think of when he's been a bad actor.
Yeah, not to mention the effects on the hooves and the horns. I think some
Oh
of
yeah.
practical. It's so well done. It really is.
Hmm. Yeah, especially when you think it's 2005.
Yeah. I've seen worse effects this year, and
Yeah.
here's 2005 showing like say, hey, we actually we actually knew what we were doing.
Yeah.
But Lucy spends the night in Narnia. None of the other siblings believe her. And then the next to step through is Edmund. And I, this is, spoiler alert, Edmund is basically the Judas of the story. He gives up Aslan. Let's just call it exactly what it is because that's exactly what it is. I used to not like Edmund for a really long time, but then I got older and realized the story that they were like, oh, that's what C.S. Lewis was trying to do, and my opinion of him has gotten better. What do you think of Edmund?
I mean, he's definitely a whiny, annoying,
he gives
but
up
he's supposed to be, and that's his character.
he gives up his family for some Turkish delight. Like,
Yeah.
come on. Like,
Which have you ever had Turkish delight?
no, I've heard it's good.
No, it's very disappointing.
Oh,
I mean, it's just kind of like a jelly, I guess, kind of. I don't know. I mean, it just sounds so amazing. And then it's like this it's like a cross between a jelly and a marshmallow kind of.
Oh wow.
It's not that great. It's super sweet and
Well,
it,
Well, Lucy ends up meeting Mr. Tumnus. Edmund gets the shorter end of the stick. He ends up meeting the White Witch, played by Tilda Swinton. And it's not exactly a controversial opinion to say that Tilda Swinton is a great actress. And honestly, she shines like a diamond in this. I'd argue, she pretty much carries this whole movie on her back. Like, she is not too over the top as the White Witch, but she's evil enough to where you buy into it. Like, she knocked it
well,
out.
he has to start out being likable enough to tempt Edmund
Oh
and
yeah,
to court him, to attract him, to make him want to come to her, and then makes the switch. She's great. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Not to mention her little assistant. I can't think of the dude's name, but he's just drives you batty. He really does.
Yeah.
And then eventually, all the other siblings come through the door, and they end up meeting sentient beavers. One of them is voiced by Ray Winstone. Not gonna lie, I love these beavers. I think they're great.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun. And then there's just sort of one delightful kind of creature and different things after another.
Yeah, and we later learn that the White Witch basically runs the place. Like, she keeps the place in basically an eternal winter. But the coming of Aslan pretty much signals the end of the winter, and you see this great quest across the way to try and find Aslan, and the cinematography in this is just so well done. I think it doesn't really get talked about super duper enough.
Yeah, I think so. I agree. You don't hear it talked about that much.
And then along their journey they end up meeting Father Christmas. And what did you what did you think of this as the Queen of Christmas?
Yeah, that was fun. That like I said, they keep meeting these sort of eclectic, interesting characters along their journey, and that kind of kept it from getting boring. Because a lot of fantasy for me gets kind of boring.
Yeah, that sounds fair. and
Yeah.
uh
What do
and
you
also
think?
I think it was a bit convenient, but I mean, it's a way to give all the kids their respective weapons. Peter, the sword and shield. Uh, the older sister, I can't remember her name right now, but the bow.
Susan.
Susan, thank you. Her bow and arrow, and Lucy the elixir. I thought that was a good way of going around it, and and I guess this is as good a place as any to go into just the fact that while this movie is very whimsical, it can also be incredibly dark. I mean, I guess we should bring up the stone tablet scene if we want to here and now, but I mean, the White Witch turns people to stone in this movie. Like, it, wow. Like, this movie gets pretty near the knuckle, if that's fair to say.
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's going to be a Christ metaphor, it's going to get dark.
Yeah.
The story of Jesus is incredibly dark.
Yeah, not to mention that not only does Mr. Tumnus get turned into stone, but the White Witch has an entire room full of people and things of Narnia that she has turned into stone. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah. Well, and doesn't she end up turning Edmund to stone at a point?
Yes, at the climactic battle.
Yeah.
Oh no, wait. He doesn't turn into stone. He ends up getting stabbed. He ends up just getting plain old stabbed.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then we eventually get to meet Aslan, voiced by Liam Neeson, and this is definitely the most heavy-handed of the Jesus allegory. I mean, if that's pretty fair to say.
Mhm. Yeah, I think so. But I think it works. I mean, his voice is perfect for this role.
Yeah, it really is. He has pretty much all of the epic lines.
Yeah.
And I guess that's as good a place as any to parlay into the stone tablet scene, which, oh boy, if you want to talk about things that scarred me as a child, that would definitely be one of them, because it is not a comfortable scene at all. And yes, I know the allegory, so I guess I should have seen it coming, but I didn't know at the time, so I was just watching this like, oh my god, what are they doing? and and the White Witch just plays it so cool. She just gets this knife and she's like sticks down in front of her. It's like, Zah! It's like, Sah! I'm like, Disney. Like, what am I
Yeah.
watching right now?
Did somebody explain to you, like in school or something, explain the allegory since you went to Catholic school?
Because I did go to a Catholic school, yes, it was eventually explained to me. But it was like on the second or third viewing. This was when we were doing the
Sorry, I don't know if you can hear. Can you hear that fire alarm from the ambulance?
no, I
There's
can't.
just a loud. Okay, if you didn't hear, sorry, interrupt. I just
This was
didn't
like
know.
on the second or third rewatch, so it took me a minute, but I did eventually come around to it.
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I think that's a good experience for kids to learn how to analyze art in that deeper way. To not, I mean, my mom would always talk about that, like, don't just mindlessly consume content, like think about it. What is it trying to say? What is it trying to do? And I think an allegory, an outright allegory, I think helps with that even more.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the movie all culminates in a pretty epic battle. Like, I think this battle doesn't get talked about nearly enough. I think it was all very well done. There's tons of action. It doesn't stay in one place for too long. There's like this army that Aslan has, they have cheetahs in this army. And I was just sitting there thinking to myself,
Yeah.
wow, Narnia has such a diverse like land, like it was so many lush animals and just of all shapes and sizes. Like it's so really well done.
And they really look great. They look good, and Aslan looks so great, and they do a good job of making him look huggable but still a lion.
Yeah, absolutely. And then Aslan does in fact come back on the strangely enough, not on the third day, if my memory serves, at least not in the movie version.
Mhm.
But he does end up coming back, and it is pretty epic. And well, he ends up eating the White Witch, which again, Disney, like like just really really dark. But I mean, the good one. So there you go.
I mean, and it is pretty when he dies on the tablets. It's definitely emotional.
It scarred me for life, like I said. Like rewatching clips for this, I almost couldn't get around to watch it because I was like, nope, I can't. And consider all the horror movies that I've watched, and consider this kids movie to go like, nope, nope, I can't do it. Nope. Well, anyway,
Yeah.
and the movie does come to a close with the Pevensey children being crowned kings and queens of Narnia. And in Narnia, it jumps about 15 years. And then they fall through the wardrobe, and it's like maybe 20 minutes have passed in the human world. I don't know. I just thought that was weird to me. This
Well, I mean, they end up having to live a lot of years because they spend all that time in Narnia, and then they go and they have to spend all that time in in the human world. I mean, it's a lot.
it would have been funny if maybe it was reversed. Like if they spent like 3 days there, but it was like 30 years in the human world, and they pop in there in 1942 and they end up in like 1972 or something.
Mm,
Would have
yeah.
would have been interesting. I'm not trying to doubt the great work of C.S. Lewis. Let's not get that twisted. But I'm just saying it would have been interesting if maybe the roles were not the roles, but the time codes were reversed.
Could see that.
So anyway, at the end of the day, I say that this movie is definitely better than people remember. This definitely has a positive reputation. It did do well at the box office, and most critics' reviews that I read for this were very positive. However, this kind of feels like lost in the shuffle a tad, at least in my opinion.
I think there's a little bit, probably partly because the sequels weren't as successful, and so it just kind of fizzled out a little bit as a franchise. But it's a strong film.
Yeah, and that's by no means to say that the sequels were bad. I actually quite enjoy Prince Caspian, and the Dawn Treader is definitely the weakest of the three, in my opinion. But I do have a soft spot for it. It gave the world Will Poulter and his worst performance by a country mile. He
I
does.
haven't seen that one, the third one. I haven't seen that movie.
He basically is the whiner and complainer that Edmund was in
Uh oh.
this movie, except with more pronounced eyebrows. They're like,
But
we
that
are
one,
turning around and going back.
that one wasn't made by Disney. That one was a different company. I forget, but
Oh wow!
yeah, I guess the second one didn't do so well, so they um I guess they sold the rights. But yeah, it wasn't made by Disney, that one.
Well, you are the queen of Disney, so you would know.
So yeah, I think it's a good film and it makes kids think, which is always good.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, I'm really enjoying this Easter tradition that we've subtly stumbled into. At the beginning of the year, I pitched to you whether you wanted to do this or Passion of the Christ, and honestly, I'm kind of glad we chose this one because I actually haven't seen Passion of the Christ yet, and I do plan on
There.
it one day.
Yeah, me either. So well, thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, thank you so much, and of course, I co-host the Hidden Gems podcast with Rachel over on her channel. But with that out of the way, Rachel, where can people find you?
You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Check all of that out. I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll post her Twitter and her channel at the link in the description.
Yeah.
And then as far as this channel goes, if you did like this video, please be sure to leave a like. If you have seen Chronicles of Narnia, leave your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say about it. And if you like this video and you want to see more like it, hit the subscribe button and click the bell to allow notifications. That way, whenever a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. As far as next Sunday goes, well, this weekend, I was originally supposed to post my first reaction to Basic Instinct. However, since it was the Easter holiday, I thought it would be rather improper for some strange reason. But I will do a make good on that and post it the next Sunday. So the next Sunday will be my first reaction to Paul Verhoeven's Basic Instinct. But with that out of the way, that's Rachel. My name is Ryan Cam. We'll see you in the next one.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Take care.